Hello, everyone. We'll get started here shortly. Let's see if I can edit this. Edit. All right, we're going to remove this. Don't want to remove it. See if I can do this here. Okay. Okay, that's save changes. And then we want to go live. Why isn't it letting me do that? There we go. Go live. Sweet. Heck yeah. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone who has been joining us, who is joining us either on YouTube, Instagram, or here in the link. I am Christina Hathaway, and this is our masterclass on spring cleaning your mindset, breaking the diet cycle or diet culture. This is incredibly important to me because I am someone who is in an industry that ultimately says, if you follow certain rules, you will see results. And the majority of people who I encounter follow those rules. They try all the things, they do all the diets, but they just can't seem to see results. That could be for a plethora of reasons, which I'm going to discuss here today. And so I want you guys to make sure you go in and grab a piece of paper and a pen while we're getting people to come in, because I'm going to be teaching you things and asking you questions so that you can leave this webinar really understanding what's underneath why you have these destructive cycles, your compulsive eating, your binge eating, your emotional eating, your overtraining, and why we're not seeing results. So make sure you go grab that piece of paper if you need it. I'm going to put this in the corner. I don't know how. Okay, I don't think I need this here. This is my first time doing a presentation on StreamYard. So grab that pen and paper. This will take about 50 minutes. I'll try to stay within time. I did make a shorter presentation today. But again, welcome. I am glad that you're here. Whether you're a person who's been, on a diet or off a diet, or you feel like there are certain days of the week where you're on track or you're off track, or maybe you're just you're exhausted in that all or nothing mindset. Like, I have to do things perfectly, and if I don't do them perfectly, then I'm a failure. And you keep chasing the next diet, the next coach, the next training program, but you never really feel like you're either getting to the outcome and sustaining that outcome, or nothing feels aligned with what you want to be in regards to a healthy person, then you're in the right place. You're also in the right place if you have a checklist of things that you deem as perfect, or what I call your quality control checklist. If I'm doing this right, that means I'm eating in this very rigid way. I'm exercising in this very rigid way. But because it's so rigid, it's unsustainable, and you just can't follow those rules. So what ends up happening is you feel like you've failed. You feel like there's something wrong with you. You need more discipline, more motivation. But because you're exhausted, you say, okay, well, because I've failed, I'm just going to keep doing the thing I'm doing. Maybe that's overeating. And I'll start again on Monday, or maybe after the summer, when the kids are out of school, whatever that looks like. You're also in the right place if you keep making promises every single morning that you're going to eat perfectly for that day. And normally, perfect eating, no one ever asks, what's a perfect day for me look like for eating? That perfect day of eating is usually something that you've learned through social media or poor coaching, poor advice. So you restrict and you white knuckle your way through the day, only to end up binging. And ultimately, this leads you to have a very poor body image, because in your mind, well, I ate good, maybe breakfast and lunch all through the week, but we forget sometimes that we had that binge and we don't realize what that does to our bodies. And we just repeat this cycle over and over again. And you're in the right place. If you were like me, you did everything quote unquote right. You you were very restrictive in your eating. You cut out foods. You started eating high volume foods just to fill your plate up so you can not feel like you're starving. You have exercised 7 days a week, but nothing seems to work. No matter your struggles, you will leave here today with a new perspective on what is keeping you stuck. I want you to leave here feeling a confidence in understanding yourself a bit more. You're going to learn it's 3 easy steps. I updated that. Weird. 3 easy steps that will help you break this cycle and truly end the binge and emotional patterns, truly end this good versus bad mentality against you, but also your food intake, your exercise, and build a true appreciation for yourself. How do I know this? I am Christina Hathaway. I am a licensed therapist, marriage and family therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession. I have worked in almost every level of care when it comes to eating disorder treatment. On top of that, I have been in the health and fitness industry since I got out of my graduate program in 2010. So for the past 15 years, I've worked these two worlds side by side and finally realized how intertwined the psychology is with the biology or the physical parts of ourselves. And so my goal is to change the industry in helping women understand it is not all or nothing. It is not perfect fail. It's about changing mindsets around who you are, how you are seen and heard, how you are seen as good or bad, understanding those patterns while also unraveling the rigidity and restrictive rules you have around diet and exercise to ultimately bring you to a place of consistency, of respect for yourself, and of compassion. So today is not going to be this, you're going to walk away overhauling everything about your life. It's just like if, like I did this weekend, I wanted to start spring cleaning. Mainly because I've been watching this girl on TikTok who does all this cleaning and it's it's so satisfying to watch her clean. So I was like, oh, I want to start cleaning, right? And instead of having this false confidence that I could clean my entire house in one day, I started with under my sink with, where all my little lotions and stuff are. And I have little organizers. Then I thought, okay, I could move on to these 2 drawers out of 3. Now this weekend, I'll do the 3rd drawer. And then there's that big bad closet that I want to go after. So maybe I do the hats, the purses, and the shoes. Then the next weekend, the clothes, right? So this is not about doing all of it at once. It's similar to my experience with cleaning my spring cleaning, right? Cleaning the mental clutter, though, the guilt, the perfectionism, the pressure, focusing on the big rocks, right? Now, my spring cleaning in my house is under the sink, the biggest rock, the closet is. But I can close the door of the closet. I see that sink and all the stuff on top every day. So I'm just going to focus on that because it's in my face every day. So for you, it's going to be focusing on what's keeping you stuck so you can finally create habits that support your life and make you feel in control. So, what you'll get out of this is understanding why your healthy habits, quote unquote, healthy habits, never seem to last, recognizing the patterns that have sabotaged your progress, sabotaged the diet, sabotaged your relationships. Learn the first step to finally resetting your health without another plan that is built in rigidity or restriction or having a list of foods you can eat and feeling relief knowing you are not broken. This has nothing to do with willpower. This is nothing to do with discipline. This very much has to do with your beliefs with yourself and the behaviors that you align those beliefs with, which I'll talk about here. So let's start off with the exhausting cycle. We can all, relate to this gal in the photo. So the exhausting cycle is this, and I want to just make sure you guys should have access to the chat as well. So if you have any comments, please put them in where it says comments if you are watching on StreamYard. So I'll be going back and forth with those. Okay, the exhausting cycle. Hands up to who this sounds familiar. You can just drop an emoji. If this sounds familiar to you, you start a plan on Monday. By Thursday, so that plan, eating clean, right? Eating my chicken, my rice, and my vegetables, no sauce. But by Thursday, you've white knuckled your way through this and you're tired and you're unmotivated. You tell yourself, I just need to be more disciplined, but I'm not going to start being disciplined until Monday because that just seems like a new, fresh start to me. So I'm going to be undisciplined throughout the weekend. You swing then between this clean eating and this, well, I've messed up. So what's the point? And you think that the problem is that you can't stick to something long term. You have decided, like, well, obviously, this is a problem with me. This is a defect. This is something broken in myself. So, if you guys in the comments, if you relate to this, please let me know. Let me see here. How do I see myself? Here we go. Maybe I can do it this way. Gotcha. Okay, cool. If you're on Instagram, you could comment there. If you're on StreamYard, you can use the comment box. Does this feel familiar to you? Anyone want to share? All right, we'll move on. Okay, moving on. This is what I'm calling in today's presentation mental clutter. It's the belief, the patterns, and the stories running in the background that sabotage your best efforts. When we're talking about that all or nothing mindset, we're not, the behavior is the outcome of the belief. The belief is I have to do it one way. And if I don't do it one way, then I've messed up. That is the belief. And if I've messed up, I might as well give in because I'm going to be even more restrictive when I do it the next time. This is mental clutter in your head. This is the thing that causes something like food noise. You get so obsessive over the food and it's just playing in your head constantly because you're probably not eating enough when you're trying to restrict. So you're thinking about food because you're freaking hungry. And then you get in front of foods that you're quote unquote not supposed to have. And then you eat that and then you're fixated on the calories or what that's going to do to your diet. And then you think about, okay, well, then tomorrow I need to be even more like, sharp with my food. And it goes on and on. So the real problem, as you're going to learn today, it's not the plan that's the problem. It's what you believe about yourself when you can't follow something perfectly. And I'll take a step beyond that. It is the plan is not the problem, or the plan is actually the problem. Technically, I should say that. You're not the problem. The plan is too restrictive for you, right? Most women that I work with, they tend to feel like they are lazy, they're unmotivated, they're uneducated. They're oftentimes very much perfectionists and overachievers, or they tend to put other people's needs before themselves. They carry years of beliefs that tell them that rest is equaling lazy, right? They carry a lot of beliefs around, if I don't do it this way, then I'm bad, or food equals reward and punishment, or their body is something they need to fix and that they need to change, right? And so if that's what's driving your habits, this punishment, I'm lazy, I'm, not good enough, I have to change, my body I can't accept it as it is. This is what's driving your habits. This is the thing in the driver's seat. And when we are working from a place of punishment and hate and mistrust in ourselves, it's never going to stick. It's never going to stick because it wasn't designed for you. So my apologies with the plan. It's not you that's the problem. The plan is the problem. So just a little thing I need to fix. So let's talk about what you've tried versus what actually works. Now, I want you to think about yourself because this is all about you. This is all about you creating change. What we've tried before, more rules, right? Don't eat the carbs. Don't eat after a certain time. Don't eat sugar. Remove sweets from your diet. These are rules, right? And look anywhere on the internet, it's going to tell you to not do these things. I have a lot of women that I have conversations with in my DMs or on my Facebook group, and they say, well, look, someone sent me this about intermittent fasting. And I asked, this is a particular woman, I asked her, I said, do you know if that research is on men or women? She goes, I have no idea. I go, well, most research on intermittent fasting is on men. And there's actually only a few people out there researching women. And the research for women is actually very different. And she's like, holy shit, right? Another rule is cutting more calories and cutting to a place that not even your fourth grade child could feel satisfied on. You think that you need to train harder and harder and harder, mainly in those high intensity workouts or excessive cardio. You keep resetting every Monday, and usually that reset looks even more and more rigid and thinking willpower will be enough. But what actually works and what you're going to learn today is learning to meet your needs. That is so, so important. We want to break the pattern of all or nothing thinking and move into all or something. We want to understand what's behind your behaviors and create a nervous system that feels safe. It doesn't feel like it's working from punishment. It doesn't feel like it's working from fear. It doesn't feel like it's working from hate. And building habits that then match these new values, not just habits that match goals. And what I want to say about that is when we only focus on the goal or the outcome of weight loss, what we're not focusing on is how we got there. And, if you want to always be dependent on a map, right? And you're not paying attention to the different, landmarks of where you're driving, that's fine. That's a choice you have. But if you want to be like, I want to know how to get to my sister's house without having to use this map, you've got to probably pay attention to, where it is, where you get off, the different landmarks, or what color the house is, so on and so forth. And that's the difference between like outcome-based goals, which are just like, I'm just going to lose weight and I'll do what I have to get there, versus like identity-based goals. Like I'm someone who understands the habits. I'm someone who creates a lifestyle and so on. So want to check in with everyone, see if there's any comments. Oh, nice. Okay. I can. Yep. Good. I can be a bit, but not as strict. Good, good, good. Awesome. Okay. So let's talk about the reset. So this reset is actually a shorter version of my mindset method. My mindset method is a psychological curriculum that I've created that every single person who enters my program goes through some capacity. There's the self-mastery method, which is a fully self-led 4-month program. We have our group coaching program that has a weekly group coaching call, access to our mindset method curriculum through my app. It's all automated. You get access to custom nutrition coaching and exercise coaching. And we also have our one-to-one coaching where you actually get to sit with a coach that is specialized in behavioral change plus certified personal trainers and nutrition coaches and work through each reflection that you're learning about yourself, helping you understand a bit more about yourself while also receiving the custom nutrition and exercise coaching. So the reset, though, is just a smaller version of that. But before we get into that, we need to understand the importance of our beliefs. So this is a beautiful picture. Our identity or our beliefs, what we think about ourselves. There's a lot of different ways I want to explain this. Number one, we have this very wounded part of ourselves, which we call in my program and in internal family systems theory, your exiles. Your exiles are the most painful, shameful parts of yourself. That is those feelings of worthlessness, of helplessness, of not being lovable, of not being good enough. Okay. The problem, though, is that those feelings are really overwhelming. And so we try to exile them, meaning we try to put them in like a deep dungeon somewhere. And in an effort to do that, we create these other parts of ourselves called our protectors or our managers. Our protectors are these types of personalities or traits that we think make us good, or at a minimum, avoid us from feeling what we put in the dungeon. So these types of identities are, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a people pleaser. I take care of people. Hold on. It's getting hot in here. I'm a high achiever, right? As long as I'm achieving and I'm getting the accolades, then I can't possibly not be good enough, right? If I'm getting all of this validation from outside of me, from people pleasing, from caretaking, from overachievement, right? Then I don't have to feel what I put in the dungeon. Okay. The problem though is that because the validation is coming from the outside, eventually either the validation will stop because you just can't do anymore, or you'll burn out. And then the third part of our identity and beliefs is these firefighters. And the firefighters are actually going to be the behaviors that I'm going to talk about here. So our identities, who we are at the core, what we believe about ourselves. Now, you probably have some really positive identities too. Like being a helper is not a bad thing. Helping people is wonderful. It's not until it becomes at the expense of yourself, or even worse, it becomes your identity. Think about the perfectionism. Think about the people pleasing. Who are you if you're not that? Okay. And we're going to have a activity for you to dive into this. So our identities and our beliefs, right? What we believe about ourselves. Then I want to talk about the firefighters. And those are usually these things that come in to put out the fires of our managers. Because again, they either burn out or the external validation stops coming in. That looks like, okay, well, then I'm just going to restrict even more. Because if I can restrict even more, then I don't have to feel like a failure from not being perfect. More likely, though, your behavior is I restrict a ton, right? I need to be perfect. And my behavior and my burnout behavior is I binge, or I dissociate, or I numb, or I get super angry. The problem with these behaviors is they create outcomes, right? So in the case of the person who's perfectionistic, that burns out. So then they binge. Their outcome is I gain weight, or I'm off the diet. I failed again. And what that creates is feelings of shame and guilt, which then, boom, guess what that activates? That exile feeling. And because we don't want to go there, got to keep it in the dungeon. It starts over and over and over again. What I need you guys to believe here is in diet culture, they want to change this. Change your behavior. Go into calorie deficit. Work out more. You have the same 24 hours in a day that everyone else has. Why aren't you choosing to show up for yourself? They want to change behaviors. I hear it all the time. Oh, if I change behaviors, then I'm changing no. If the identity is still there, that you're not good enough unless you're pleasing others. You're not good enough unless you're achieving. You're not good enough unless your body looks a certain way. That was mine. Then it doesn't matter how much behavior change you do, because eventually this is always running the show. Now, could you be changing this and this at the same time? Absolutely. I see it every single day in my program. Okay. So I want to give you just a quick example. So for this client, she said, in the past, I've been very all or nothing with exercise and food. There was no middle ground. I would try and be healthy, work out, eat healthy, but would always fall off and then feel shame about it, which only made things worse. I didn't know how to be consistent with the lifestyle changes that I want. So again, the belief in identity is I need to be perfect, right? So that's the protector, or I'm worthless. That's the exile. Be super, super restrictive only to mess up. So that firefighter comes in and the mess up is the binge. Then the outcome is, well, I've already failed, so I keep going, which ultimately causes weight gain or whatever that is. Then she feels a lot of shame and boom, we start over again. So I wasn't going to put this in here, but I want you guys to come back to this image and think about what this might look like for you. Get a little curious. What might this look like for me? If you have that piece of paper, I want you to write it down, okay? Because it's incredibly, incredibly important. Okay. So the reset framework is where we usually see breakthroughs happen with coaching. This is a 3-part process I use with clients to help them kind of reset these extremes. This is not like full overload of your life, as I talked about. Whereas my other programs, I mean, they're a longer commitment. They're not 21 days or 45 minutes. This is really just to help you start to reset, right? Reset the mindset. Okay, so step 1 is to audit. It's all about getting honest with yourself. This is just not about what you're doing or not doing, but how you think about those things. So this is where we pause and we want to understand our current behaviors or lack thereof. Then I have some questions here, but we're going to go into the activity. Like when I fail at a diet. So let's talk about what some behaviors here look like. I only feel like an exercise is worth it if I'm exhausted and I'm sweating profusely. I'm only feel good on a diet if I, eat at 1200 calories. I only feel like I am getting, going to see progress if I work out every day. I, really, overhaul my life and try to make all these changes with my diet. I've tried all these programs, but they fail. Okay. So think about your current thoughts and or your current behaviors. I start a diet, I do really well for 3 weeks, and then something happens. And this has happened to me. Think about how many times that's happened to you. Then, as we're talking, I want you to think about what are the outcomes from these behaviors. What behaviors specifically are creating those outcomes. So let me go back to that. Sometimes people can't think of the behaviors because they're just not understanding it. So sometimes I'll even have them start at the outcomes that they don't want. Well, I keep gaining weight, or I'm having health issues. My kids are seeing me, body check or talk negatively about myself. I don't like that about myself. I can't have sex with my partner with the lights on because I feel gross. I don't like to go shopping. Okay, so maybe that's the outcome. Then what are the behaviors you're doing that are creating this outcome? What are your thoughts and feelings about those behaviors? For some of you, you might think that this is what I'm supposed to do. You might actually validate some of these behaviors, and I want you to know that's okay. We only know what we know. And this masterclass is here to teach you to maybe turn your mind towards a different way. Okay. And then how do you feel about all of it? So, for those of you, wherever you're watching, I want you to write down one habit you keep trying to change, but you seem to keep failing at. So, you can put it in the comments, or if you want to put it on Instagram, go ahead and do that. You can add a comment on Instagram as well. So, go ahead and add that for me. Good, good. I'll come back to the chat just in an effort to save time. Step 2 is to analyze. So we audited our behaviors, our outcomes that we don't want. We audited the behaviors that create those outcomes, and then our feelings and thoughts about those behaviors and outcomes. Step 2 is to analyze. This is all about getting honest with yourself. This is the most powerful part, but it is hard work. It's where you're going to slow down and ask, where did these patterns begin? Where did I start to think that if I don't do something perfectly, so let's use the person who does the program for 3 weeks, is perfect with it, but somehow it fizzles out. What are other times in your life that you felt I have to do things a specific way in an effort to be worthy or achieve something, or maybe even just be seen, right? Maybe you're the person who your behaviors are, I start a plan, but I just don't seem to have enough time in the day because you can't say no because you're a people pleaser, right? Maybe you don't know that yet, but I'm teaching you that. So where did you learn that you have to say yes to everyone else? And what did you learn about yourself if you actually said no? Were you not good enough? Were you criticized? Were you being selfish? Okay. How many years? What's the youngest you felt in that same thought pattern? Like, how old were you when this thought pattern started? I want you to really dig deep here because this is incredibly important. These thoughts didn't just show up one day. These have been shaped over your life. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if some people watching this haven't been put on a diet at a very young age. So that's all you've known is to punish your body, restrict your food, change the way you look. And you were probably put on a diet by the person who is supposed to love you unconditionally. Now, they probably did it because the stupid ass doctor told them to do it. Or in my case, I wasn't put on a diet. I put myself on a diet because I was a dancer. And in my head, I had to look a certain way to be successful. Luckily, I was a successful dancer just by itself. But there was a lot of things that I did to find my worth that were not healthy. So again, these have been shaped over time. We want to bring awareness to the story. And we want to help you realize like this isn't just something broken in you. You freaking learned this stuff. And what I like to say to a lot of people is as babies, little babies, you know how to say no. Look at a newborn. They know how to say no. If they don't like you, they're like, eh. If they're done eating, they're like, right? If they don't like something, like, right? It's not until someone tells them, oh, and they also have no issues with their bodies. Their little chunky legs and their little bellies chilling in their lives. They don't care if their belly is hanging over their swimsuit. They're chilling. They're playing sandcastle until someone tells them differently. So when were you told differently? So when did you first start believing that your worth was tied to your body, to productivity, or how much you give to others? So that's our step 2. And again, we're going to do a little activity. So I know you're probably like, this is going too fast. We're going to get an activity. Step 3 is align. And this is all about choosing what actually supports you. So as this starts to click and you're like, oh, wow, like my dieting history is actually very connected to a lot of the ways I've kind of gone about my life, that perfectionism, that people pleasing, that overachievement, right? And you're like, well, and I want to say this, sometimes that stuff serves you. Is it great I think there's a difference between perfectionism and striving for excellence. And this is something I teach my one-to-one clients. It's great to want to put out your best product. But when it's crippling you because you keep having to do it over and over again, or you're over analyzing it, or whatever that is, or you don't even do the project at all because you're afraid you're going to fail, that's crippling, right? So if you're starting to click like, oh, I'm in that crippling phase when it comes to my health because I'm afraid to fail again because I'm a perfectionist, then what we want to do is stop forcing habits that don't match your life and start building ones that feel right to you. So this is not through the version of you trying to prove yourself to someone. This is a version of you that's grounded and clear on what works for them today. So one thing I like to ask my clients on, even not even clients, potential clients, is I want you to walk me through your most stressful week. And I want you to tell me, for people who've already heard this, this is my go-to. Your partner's out of town, you have a deadline for work, the kids are homesick, and the dog is throwing up something green. Worst week. What do you know you can absolutely do when it comes to nutrition? What do you know you absolutely can do when it comes to movement or exercise? And they say, oh, well, when it comes to nutrition, I can definitely have a vegetable on my plate every meal. Great. That's where we start. That's the habit I want you to start today. And then when it comes to movement, I know that my kids, when they're sick, they like to lay on the couch and watch Price is Right for you guys my age, with some cinnamon toast and some tea. So I, during that time, will go to the basement and do a 20-minute workout, twice that week. Great. Let's start there. The all or nothing, the perfectionist, the overachiever is going to be like, that's not enough. Well, it's more than you could. Well, I want to say this. If you do it just once, yeah, it's not enough. But I want to teach you guys something. And I haven't done this on one of my master classes, but I need to pull it up real quick. So if you guys have any questions, it's a good time to pause. And let me know if you have any questions. So if you're on Instagram, throw those questions in. If you are on StreamYard, okay, good. Perfect. Slowing down when I eat, paying attention to hungerfuls, going to sleep on time, tracking my meals ahead of time. Good. Okay, so these are all things that we want to change. Thank you, guys. It's so weird. Like, it's hard to see who's here. So bear with me with the new technology. I had this conversation with someone on this. So this isn't new to you. Give me one. Okay. So if we're starting with what we can do, if we just do that once, that's not going to feel like enough, right? it's not enough because we're just doing it one time. However, oh no, this isn't going to work for me. Here, let me see if I can find it. Sorry, guys. This is ad lib. So let's see if we can make this work. Let's see. Come on, little guy. I'm using ChatGPT to help me with this. Okay. However, if this is what you could do on your worst week, you know you can do it on your best week too, right? So I want to use this example. Hold on. Technology. Okay, there we go. So if I gave you $1, so we're playing 18 rounds of golf, and I gave you $1 at every round and every hole, excuse me. And at each hole, I'm going to double that dollar. I want to break this down for what this looks like for you. So yes, the 20-minute workout and the vegetable on the plate once, not great. But as we double over time, it looks like this. At hole 1, you're going to have $1. At hole 2, you're going to have $2. At hole 3, you're going to have $4. At hole 4, you're going to have $8. At hole 5, you're going to have $16. At hole 6, you're going to have $32. At hole 7, you're going to have $64. At hole 8, you'll have $128. At hole 9, you'll have $256. At hole 10, you'll have $512. At hole 11, you'll have $1,024. Hole 12, $2,048. Hole 13, $4,096. Hole 14, $8,192. Hole 15, $16,384. Hole 16, $32,768. Hole 17, $65,536. And hole 18, $131,072. That is consistency. That is what doing that 20-minute workout, having the vegetable on the plate will get you. Now, in this conversation, listening to, yay, yeah. She said, sidebar, listening to you as I'm trying on dresses for an event, making you feel better. Yes, love that. Now, in the $1 doubling at each hole, how this applies to you is you start with where you can be consistent and you string along enough days where you feel confident that that feels like a habit to you. And that's going to be different for you, right? If you're someone who kind of catches on to habits pretty quickly, that might be shorter than someone who doesn't. And that's okay. Again, this is your process. But as the habits string along, you can add to them, right? Okay, I got really good at the 20-minute workouts in the basement when the kids are watching Price is Right. And I put the vegetable on my plate, I'm going to add a protein to my plate. We don't have to add to both. We can just add to one. And we start building that for us, for our specific needs. The woman who has to go into the office versus the woman who stays at home is going to have different needs. I work from home. I don't have children. I have a gym in my house. I have different needs, right? And so we want to get very grounded in what works for us. Okay. So I want you to take a pause here, let it sink in, right? You have the thing that we want to change. And if all you take away from today is that your habits don't need to be extreme to be effective because, it could just be consistent and you could double your dollar at each hole, then I've already done some serious spring cleanup. And I feel good about that. And you should too. Okay. But let's do a quick activity, a little mindset audit. So I want you to try this short little exercise from the first part of the process. Okay. We already wrote down the healthy habit that we're trying to stick to, but can't. I want you to think about, what do you tell yourself when you can't follow through? So when I go back to my notes, what do you tell yourself when you can't track meals ahead of time? What do you tell yourself when you don't go to sleep on time? What do you tell yourself when maybe you are eating mindlessly and not paying attention to hunger and fullness cues? What is the message that you tell yourself? Then again, I'll let you write that down. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to write this down because I really want you to let this sink in. Where we're thinking about What do I tell myself about why I can't follow through? Where did you learn that story? Well, if I had food scarcity as a child, I had to eat very quickly. I have rescued a puppy who was a hit and run, some animal cruelty things going on with her. She eats so quick. I had to buy one of those little plates that is like a maze, so she can slow down, right? Because she has had food scarcity in her life. And you're not a puppy, but example, like she doesn't know where she's afraid she's not going to get her next meal, and she's might even be afraid that the other dog's going to take it from her, or maybe there was a lot of dogs in that house. So you think about family systems. If there's a lot of children in a home and like you had to eat quickly or you weren't going to eat at all, I had to figure that out, right? I got to eat quickly. Like I don't even listen to my body. That's very practical. Some of these are not as practical, right? So again, what's one healthy habit you keep trying to stick to but can't? For those of you listening on Instagram, if you didn't get to that part, I'm going to go over it again. What do you tell yourself when you can't follow through? And where did you learn that story about yourself? This isn't about judgment, solely awareness, because you can't change what you don't know, right? We walk through life not knowing. Walk through life just being like, this is just me, right? So I want you to let that land. And sometimes just that insight, that moment of, oh, that makes sense. That's why I keep doing that for myself, is where the change begins. Because this says, this isn't me. I learned this. I was the kid with all the family members around, and I had to scarf down my food, and we were a big family and we didn't have food. So my brain is still stuck in that little place that she's not going to get fed. So then when I eat really quickly. Again, very practical, a very common thing for people, or not as common. I came from a household of doctors and lawyers. My parents wanted to live vicarious through me and told me what to do so that they could be seen as good, because if I was also a doctor and lawyer, then they felt like they were good parents. So they always put this pressure on me to be perfect, to achieve, to get all of the grades. And I went along with it because it got me a lot of praise. But then with that one time when I got a B minus or a B plus or an A minus, I got criticized. So I learned very quickly, like, you don't mess up, girl or boy. You get those A's. And I do the same thing with my food. If I'm not perfect, I'm so fearful that exile part of me is like, no, 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 no. You keep trying. You keep restricting. You keep working harder. Because I don't want to feel that feeling. I felt that when I was a kid. I don't want to feel that anymore. So let it land. So again, you're not broken, babes. You're burnt out. Those little parts of you are burnt out. So again, it's not your fault. You've been fed a health model and a model of worthiness that rewards punishment, rewards urgency. It all or nothing thinking. A lot of these like diet culture programs really play into your insecurities. I want to know your insecurities and help you feel secure in them. And yeah, a part of what we do is help people change their bodies, but I will never in my program have someone change their bodies if they're not doing it with respect to themselves, right? So what we need is to rewire the rules around our worth or goodness. We need to create those habits that create consistency rather than punishment. And we need the tools to manage those mental spirals. Again, today, just knowing, oh, I do that thing, and then being aware of it when it's happening literally will change the game for you. But this is also why I created my 21-day reset, Resilient Women Reset. So for those of you who are not current clients, this is just a little bit about what we do in a way that works for our clients. Yeah, part of what we do is help people lose weight. But again, we're doing it from the inside out. And for some people, it's very interesting. Like they'll have a goal when they come in, but once they start doing this work on themselves, they get very secure in their bodies. And that's what I want. That's what I experienced. So the Resilient Woman Reset, this isn't a challenge. This is really a reset for women who are done with extremes. It's for women who know what to do, because we all can go online and do all the things, but they can't seem to figure it out. So for those of you who are current clients, if you think of anyone who would benefit from this, we're going to audit their current habits and their hidden patterns. We're going to analyze what's behind that constant self-sabotage or in their minds failure. We're going to align their routines with their real life and their values, what works for them. And they're going to get all of the tools and everything with it. So instead of going through the yo-yos and killing themselves, feeling like they have to be perfect, putting themselves on the back burners, we're going to end that yo-yo dieting. We're going to create new ways of thinking and feeling around the body and food and create sustainable habits. So this is one of our clients. I always like to share with how what we do changes people from the inside out. So she has officially shifted her mind from wanting to feel small to wanting to feel strong and lean. I was extra motivated wanting my fitness goal for my wedding, but as I started doing the work and digging deeper, it became so much more than that. I was motivated by wanting this to be different and quickly knowing that it felt different. And the more time I was able to still live my life and maintain my weight with the best body of my life, the more I believed it. I have since had a baby. I was able to love my body through all of that so much more than I ever would have been able to if I hadn't done that work and been able to get back to feeling strong and fit at her own pace 15 months postpartum. This is a client who was perfectionist through and through. Mentally, I've never been in a better place. My confidence at an all-time high and true confidence, not this false confidence. The emotional regulation is unmatched and I'm in total control of my reactions and responses and decisions. The I say this one all the time. Inexplicable binges have stopped. My self-limiting beliefs are behind me and I'm capable of handling whatever life throws my way. Physically, I've exceeded my body composition goals and now have the knowledge to rinse and repeat. I said that already, as I choose to move forward. And then my coach pushed me to think deeper about my own beliefs and encouraging me to try new things and be kind to myself. Mentally, a huge mindset shift. I'm eating more and trying new recipes. I have a weekly calendar and it's been so helpful. Physically, she's lost about 10 pounds, noticed it in her different parts of her body. Her clothes fit better. And emotionally, she is able to feel her feelings and not drown them in food. If I want food, cool. But if not, I'm not going to emotionally eat. So in this Resilient Woman Reset, for any of you watching on Instagram, YouTube, or here live, I guarantee that by committing to this reset, you'll have a deeper understanding of your relationship with your body, food, and worth. You'll learn to create a nutrition and exercise program that works for you. You will never label foods as good versus bad. And for those of you watching today, you're actually going to get my sustainable eating quadrant guide, which starts this process. In the 21-day challenge, I'm going to go through each person's quadrant and customize it for you. But this is going to be sent home for you. So if you want it, please put your email in the comments and I'll send it over to you. This will give you kind of a head start to everyone else if you do choose to do the reset. We're going to catch and replace negative body and self-talk, and let's just say stop quick fixes. So for anyone who is interested in doing that here, you'll receive a $20 off using the coupon code MAKEOVER, all caps, and you can just take a picture of this now or DM me or whatever you need, and that will set you up for the 21-day challenge. So questions. Questions. What questions do you have? What aha moments have you had? What is, maybe you're a client that has already worked with me. What is something new you learned about yourself or reminded yourself? Because sometimes we just need to hear that same message come through to us in different language. So what is something that you have learned here today? I'll give you guys a second. I'm going to move on, but I'm going to come back to our chat. So again, I'm not sure what drew you to this workshop today, but here's the thing. You have a choice. We can keep going on social media, trying the diet, endlessly Googling, obsessively researching, following that 20-year-old girl who doesn't have any kids or a job or whatever and expecting to look like her, hunting for the magic fix, doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, or we can dig deep, do the hard work, and uncover why our old habits are bringing us results. So if you're ready to end the constant battling, I'll put back the QR code and I'll let my people talk for us because that's them. That's our 5-star reviews. And I hope you guys found this helpful. Remember, it all works in auditing our current behaviors or outcomes that aren't serving us, analyzing where those behaviors started, what is our first experiences with those behaviors, and why were they there, and then starting to align with who we are today, what works for us today, and using our grown-up brain to start talking ourselves out of those patterns. So I hope you guys found this helpful. If you know anyone that would be interested in the 21-day reset, please let me know. I can share that information with you. Yes, needing to hear the same message from you, but a different time. Listen, you guys know my struggle is asking for help. And I talked to my therapist last week. She goes, okay, this is what, okay. And I'm a therapist, and I think I'm a pretty good damn therapist. She goes, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to look at your week and you're going to look at what you can do. My dad's in a rehabilitation facility recently out of the hospital. And I feel a lot of guilt, I feel like my family's like, you need to be here and I can't, right? So I'm like, oh, what do I do? She's like, you're going to look at your schedule and you're going to figure out what days work for you. And you're going to tell them, these are the days that work for me. And I was like, oh, genius. So I get it. And she's told me this all different ways. And guess what? I said, I can come Wednesday night and stay till Friday. So I'm going to have all the things I need, have my computer, my notebook. There's a gym down the street that I can use a class pass for. And really, it's just to shower. So I'll work out, but it's really just to get a shower in because I'm sleeping at this rehab center. For those who don't know, my dad is very sick and he's also blind. So being blind in a hospital is very difficult. So we stay with him just to ensure if he needs something, even grabbing his water, we're there. Anyways, thank you guys. And please, if you want the sustainable eating quadrant, please put your email in the chats. Again, this is a totally different way of looking at food. And it helps you realize oh, I can have the foods that I love. I can eat foods that bring me satisfaction and joy. If they don't, I can either prepare them in a way that makes them taste better, or if that's not an option, those are probably the foods I don't want to eat. And I'm not telling you not to eat them. You're telling me you don't want to eat them because you don't like them, right? So if you want that, just put it in the chat. I'll send it over to you. But other than that, guys, thank you for attending my webinar. I will be sending this out for anyone who did sign up. We had a lot of people sign up that are not here, so you will get the recording. Y'all have a great night. Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you all for all of your support. It really means so much to me. And I will see you later.